My objection to his book is that the good is too much absent, said Sainte-Beuve in his review of Madame Bovary. Why, he asked, does this novel not have in it a single person who might console and give ease to the reader by some picture of goodness? Then he points the young author to the right path. In a remote province in central France, I met a woman, still young, superior in intelligence, ardent of heart, restless. A wife, but not a mother, with no child to raise, to love. What did she do to make use of her overflowing mind and soul? She set about becoming a diligent benefactress. She taught reading and moral development to the children of the villages, often few and far between. There are such souls in provincial and rural life. Why not show them as well? That is uplifting, it is consoling, and the picture of humankind is only the more complete for it. I have emphasized the key terms. It is tempting for me to jibe at this morality lesson, which irresistibly recalls the improving exhortations of the recent socialist realism. But memories aside, is it really so inappropriate for the most prestigious French critic of his time to exhort a young writer to uplift and console his readers by a picture of goodness, readers who deserve, as do we all, a little sympathy and encouragement? In fact, George Sand, in a letter some 20 years later, told Flaubert much the same thing. Why does he hide the feeling he has for his characters? Why not show his personal doctrine in his novel? Why does he bring his readers desolation, where she, Sand, would rather console them? As a friend, she admonishes him. Art is not only criticism and satire. Flaubert replies that he never sought to write either criticism or satire. He does not write his novels to communicate his judgments to readers. He is after something entirely different. I have always done my utmost to get into the soul of things. His reply makes it very clear. The real subject of the disagreement is not Flaubert's character, whether he is kind or cruel, cold or compassionate, but the question of what the novel is. For centuries, painting and music were in service to the church, a fact that in no way lessened their beauty. But putting a novel to the service of an authority, however noble, would be impossible for a true novelist. It makes no sense to try to glorify a state, let alone an army, with a novel. And yet, Vladimir Holan, enthralled by the men who liberated his country and mine in 1945, wrote The Soldiers of the Red Army, beautiful, unforgettable poems. I could imagine a magnificent painting by Frans Hals that would show a diligent benefactress surrounded by peasant children whom she is training in moral development. But only a very foolish novelist could make that good lady a heroine as an example to uplift his readers' minds. For we must never forget, the arts are not all alike. Each of them accedes to the world by a different doorway. Among those doorways, one is exclusively reserved to the novel. I say exclusively because to me the novel is not a literary genre, one branch among many of a single tree. We will understand nothing about the novel if we deny that it has its own muse, if we do not see it as an art sui generis, an autonomous art. It has its own genesis, which occurred at a moment specific to it. It has its own history, marked by phases that pertain to it alone. The highly important shift from verse to prose in the evolution of dramatic literature has no equivalent in the evolution of the novel. The histories of the two arts are not synchronous. It has its own morality. Hermann Brock said it. The novel's sole morality is knowledge. A novel that fails to reveal some hitherto unknown bit of existence is immoral. Thus, getting into the soul of things and setting a good example are two different and irreconcilable purposes. It has its specific relation to the author's self in order to hear the secret, barely audible voice of the soul of things. The novelist, unlike the poet or the musician, must know how to silence the cries of his own soul. It has its time span for creation. The writing of a novel takes up a whole era in a writer's life, and when the labor is done, he is no longer the person he was at the start.